Dave and Tim here at a Single Malt Review. Thanks for tuning in as we venture back to the Highlands of Scotland for another single malt scotch.
It's Glenturret, but not the Glenturret that you might know and love. And a lot of people do know and love Glenturret now after their sort of resurgence under the Lalique group reign, who I only just discovered also, exclusively almost make perfume. And now the bottle makes complete sense. It's like perfume for giants. It's a bit crass, really, but never mind. Never mind, onto the whiskey. What makes this one weird is that it's peat smoked and it's 7 years old, which is a kind of a brave number to put on a bottle.
Yeah.
If you had 7 years old whiskey, most people would say, like, no, let's just make it an no-age statement and let people grizzle about that rather than, bring the heat upon ourselves and be honest about the age of the whiskey in there, which I salute. I think that's a real mark of quality, putting a 7 on your bottle. Even though it may not be a high number, at least it's a bloody number. Now, as you can tell by the colour, there's quite a lot of sherry going on here, and there's quite a lot of sherry going on in the whole Glenturret range in its modern form. It's a very big and rich kind of thing.
And this is only 44%, isn't it? It's
44%. So that's a weird choice. That's not quite 43, not quite 46. Someone just decided, well, we'll go somewhere in the middle, I guess. Who knows? Who knows what the decision was there? It surely is not cask strength, so goodness knows. Goodness knows. We shan't speculate. But the whiskey itself, yes, the peated, one of two peated offerings actually now from Glenturret, and that's kind of a new direction for the distillery. They weren't really like most Highland distillers, not classically akin to peating. So we'll just have to see how this one goes.
That is a curious smoke.
It is.
That is somewhere between bacon and chlorine.
The bacon is certainly there. I got a burning popcorn or like a burning nut. Something like getting too hot in the pan.
A slightly old swimming pool with chlorinated water, but also just some smoky meat. Curious.
Yeah, it's odd. The if there's one complaint I have with this whiskey is that possibly the Glenturret itself, being new to peat, hasn't quite figured out where to put the peat, and it feels like they've got this whiskey here, and the peat's just kind of been like stacked on top, and it's kind of beginning to slide off one of the sides. They've opened the closet and rammed the peat in where they could find a hole. Then that may be a fair assessment, it may not be, I don't know, but it's certainly the impression I get, because the peat is just sort of here, weird, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind a bit of weird peat sometimes, but besides the peat, there's a real buttery kind of pastry going on. Super buttery and fudgy, like but that I ate more fudge. I think that's a Russian fudge. Anyway.
Well, after trying it at full strength, I can see why I've opted to bottle it at what we might say only 44%, because that's got a real scorch to it. That's a kick in the tongue.
Yeah, it's
peat. Just it lashes you.
It's a 7-year-old whiskey, and it means it. So that peat is pretty raw, pretty exposed, and pretty good to go.
There's burnt toast and burnt popcorn coming through on the tongue, certainly, in waves.
Burnt popcorn, that might have been the thing, the burning thing I was thinking of.
So when you do microwave popcorn, and always some of it goes bad and smoky.
I lived that life for too long, so now I decide to underpop and forego a few kernels, because I find that hellish black one that you get from making sure everything's popped just taints the whole flavour. But I won't go down the microwave popcorn rabbit hole. It's too real. But no, underpop. Hashtag.
Other than that, though, there's a good bit of Highland sweet fruitiness there. Some honey. It's really dominated by the peat. That is such a strange manifestation of Scottish peat, though.
Yeah, it strikes me as, I'm not sure where they've sourced it. It strikes me as the peat that Ardmore uses. So mainland peat, not Isla peat. I think if it was Isla peat, it would be a bit more, you'd kind of know, and I think it would gel even less well, because if this was sort of tangy shellfish iodine as well as everything else, I think that would then be too weird.
Oh, now adding water has made that go less sort of smoky and a bit more briny, so it's shifted it slightly off towards Isla.
But yeah, besides the peat, which, as I said, is slightly loose fitting there, you have really good concentrated Highland sherry characters. There's lots of red fruit, lots of stewed fruit, and lots of really nice oak character coming through 7 years old, despite this was obviously in some pretty active, I'd say pretty first fill sherry wood along the way. Probably Oloroso, maybe a little bit of PX in around the edges. In fact, yeah, I get that little sour twang from the PX just on the nose now with a bit of water. And that's kind of what you got. 7 years old, it hasn't had a chance to develop any massive complexity. It's really a case of how that peat interacts or doesn't with the sort of more classical Highland characters. And that's what I think was going to make or break a drinker on this whiskey as to how well they think they've pulled it off. I think they probably like not 100% on target, but it's close. It's close enough, and I think as the whiskey ages, it will integrate further naturally, and it will get closer and closer to the bullseye. And also, this being batched, next year's one will probably be, another refinement again on this one. So I think this is a whiskey that is going places. I don't think they're going to drop the peated thing, but this one, it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit of an oddity, a bit of a peat weirdo here. But I don't mind too much of a whiskey weirdo, so I'm still going to rate this one. Ooh, hovering between 87 and 88, but I think it's 87. In fairness, It is 87. What do we think?
I'm going to go quite a bit lower on it. This is certainly an interesting whiskey, but what it has in interest, it lacks in enjoyment. I'm intrigued by this bizarre form of peat, but I'm not really thinking, I'm enjoying this whiskey. I'm having a good time drinking it.
Too much of a mishmash.
It's a quality whiskey, but one that I'm just not enjoying drinking. Then rates it down to a 76 for me.
I think that's fair. Some people will appreciate the weird, as I have. Some people will sort of open the pantry of this whiskey and have it all fall out on them because it was improperly stacked, and that is just going to come down to individual tastes. But yeah, it's good to see the experiments being made, especially in younger, affordable whiskey. It's always good to see. Like, imagine if we just had World Have a Go Day on peat, and every single distillery was at gunpoint forced to make a peated expression and release it as some sort of young thing. The wonders and tragedies that we would see, I think, would just be giddyingly interesting. But we'll just have to be satisfied with simply one distillery, Glenturret, doing it for the time being. So yes, and I didn't even dock my point for this looking like it should be sitting on some shelf in Regency, England. Because
I personally quite like the aesthetics. There's a certain sort of
I don't know,
solidness, a bit of Art Deco about it.
Think how much weight that adds to the bloody shipment. Come on, more whiskey, less glass. That's what I give them us in little grip and sip baggies. That's what we need. They need to team up with NASA and find a way to get us the whiskey in the minimal packaging, and we can have slightly classier versions of beer riggers and fill them up at home. Bring back the decanter, like proper rich people. That's what I say. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Sludger, thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back with another one.